Sustainable agriculture. This is a very big area right now, and responsible consumption. What we eat, where it comes from, how it's grown, all of these things are very much a factor. And when we look at sustainable agriculture, less meat, because raising meat on these factory farms is not sustainable. And it's a very large contributor of greenhouse gas, the methane that is released on those farms. More and more attention is being given now to capturing and composting waste from feedlots, but also zoos are very much involved in this. The Dallas Zoo, in fact, is taking all of their large animal waste and composting that, and then making that compost available for sale to the public. So, a great example of stewardship on the local level. And there are there's over 100 zoos who are doing this nationwide. Finally, an example of eco-theological work is engaging in social action and advocating for policy change, working towards social justice in the context of the challenges that abuse of the environment and degradation presents to us. So in essence, eco-theology offers a framework for understanding and addressing the ecological crisis from a faith-based perspective, encouraging individuals and communities to live in harmony with nature and to promote a more sustainable future. Some people call eco-theology green theology, and I know you've got your green team. And one of the things that I do is I consult with churches on establishing a green team. I say, you can call it whatever you want to. Creation care team, creation justice ministry, green team, whatever. They're all the same. And what we have to understand is that there are interchangeable names, and the nomenclature for these groups is interchangeable across the board. But green theology is a field of study that explores the relationship between theology and the natural world, particularly in the face of the environment crisis that we face today. This interdisciplinary approach examines how religious beliefs and practices, especially within Christianity, can inform our understanding of creation care and motivate us. That's the thing. Don't just take it in, but motivate us to address ecological challenges. So some of the key principles and focus of this movement are recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. Everything that we have living today is created by God. And there's an interconnection there that takes place. Fundamental principle is understanding that all living beings are part of this intricate web of life and are interdependent. The stewardship and care for creation is such an important part of this, and eco-theology emphasizes the moral and spiritual responsibility that we as humans have to act as caretakers and protectors of the earth, rather than seeing themselves as its absolute masters. How often have we heard somebody interpret Genesis 1 as being, well, we're masters of the universe. No, we're not. We're caretakers. God has entrusted creation to us to care for it and nourish it and sustain it, not to abuse it and use it for gain. Another principal focus is on sustainability, and that's the commitment to promote sustainable practices and to reduce environmental harm. Another principle is promoting eco-justice. And as I said earlier, there are so many justice issues that are related to caring for creation. What this does is it highlights the link between the ecological problems that God's creation is facing on one hand and the social injustices that result from it on the other hand. Particularly how environmental degradation disproportionately affects vulnerable communities, people of color, low-income individuals, because so much environmental degradation is in low-income communities. How many of you have seen a chemical plant or an oil refinery in an upscale neighborhood? NIMBY?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Another principle is spirituality and the recognition that the spiritual significance of the natural world should be foremost in our thinking. Engaging in environmental activism, eco-theology encourages faith communities to actively participate in environmental advocacy, education initiatives like conservation, sustainable agriculture. One of the things that I do and have done for a number of years is I testify regularly in state legislative committees, at the EPA, at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, from a faith-based perspective on how they should respond to the crisis that we are facing. Every time I visit a legislator's office, I always take a copy of the United Methodist Social Principles with me and leave that with them and say, this is what we believe. I also research what their faith background is, and I call them out if they're not living up to what their faith tradition says. So, had some interesting conversations. Eco-theology is informed by a diverse range of theological perspectives on the environment. So let's look at some of the key theological perspectives, including Christian eco-theology and eco-theology in other faith traditions. Christian eco-theology emphasizes the importance of stewardship and care for the natural world. Remember what I said? It's not mastering over it, it's caring for it and working with it. The concept of stewardship is deeply rooted in biblical tradition, which emphasizes our human responsibility to care for and protect the earth. One of the key principles of Christian eco-theology is the concept of creation care. This involves recognizing the inherent value of creation and then taking action to protect it and preserve it. We can recognize it and then do nothing about it, but are we living up to the mission that Christ has given us? No. Creation care is reflected in many biblical passages. The one that Daniel shared with us earlier from Psalm 136. Yeah. But also in Psalm 24:1, the earth is the Lord and everything in it, and the world and all who live in it. So in other words, we live in it, but it's God's. It's not ours. Christian eco-theology also emphasizes the importance of justice and compassion in relation to the environment. And this involves the disproportionate impact of environmental degradation, as I said, on communities that are vulnerable, and also it encourages us. In fact, it commands us to take action to promote environmental justice. But when we talk about eco-theology, it's not limited to Christian Christianity. Other faith traditions have developed eco-theological perspectives on the environment. Jewish eco-theology emphasizes the importance of tikkun olam, which is translated as repairing the world. And this involves taking action to protect the environment, to promote social justice. In Islamic eco-theology, they emphasize the concept of khalifa, or stewardship. It involves recognizing human responsibility to care for and protect the natural world. In Hindu eco-theology, emphasizes the concept of ahimsa, which is nonviolence. This recognizes the interconnectedness of all living beings and taking action to promote environmental sustainability. And in Buddhist eco-theology, they emphasize the concept of interdependence. And this involves recognizing the interconnectedness of all living things and taking action to promote environmental sustainability. So, while there are some diverse elements in each of these eco-theology perspectives from a faith-based perspective, there are common themes that emerge across the different faith traditions. And these include the interconnectedness, the understanding that all living beings are interconnected and interdependent, and stewardship, which is the responsibility to care for and protect the natural world, and sustainability, commitment to promote sustainable practices and reduce environmental harm. Now, we see all these common themes, but there are also differences, and we have to understand them as well. For example, some faith traditions emphasize the importance of human dominion over the natural world, while others emphasize the importance of living in harmony with nature. Within our own Christian tradition, there are some groups, probably more prevalent on the evangelical side, that stress dominion as opposed to cooperation with nature. But in faith, in Christianity, the key concepts of stewardship, creation care, based on biblical teachings, viewing humans as responsible for protecting and preserving God's creation. In Judaism, as I said, tikkun olam, repairing the world, focuses on social justice and environmental sustainability. Islam, Khalifa, emphasizes the human responsibility, and it's grounded in a concept called Khalifa, which means trusteeship, emphasizing the human responsibility that we have been entrusted to care for and protect the natural world. In Hinduism, ahimsa, nonviolence, promotes interconnectedness and environmental sustainability. And in Buddhism, that whole concept of interdependence and mindfulness and environmental sustainability working together. So, spend a moment briefly talking about some of the case studies. What's going on around globally? There's an initiative in the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, called Eco Church. And it's a Christian campaign that encourages churches to take action on environmental issues. And over 5,000 churches in the UK have signed on to this and are part of it. In the US, Green Faith is an interfaith organization that promotes environmental sustainability and social justice. And they certify congregations as Green Faith sanctuaries. They also have a program in conjunction with Eco America called that trains climate ambassadors. And I have just recently trained as one of those climate ambassadors, working to bring churches together. There's another group in Great Britain, the UK, called the Islamic Foundation for Ecology and Environmental Sciences. And they are seeking to promote eco-theology in Muslim communities. Here in the US, there was a program that developed in the early part of this century called Interfaith Power and Light. The National Organization for Interfaith Power and Light has ceased or suspended operations, but there are about 40 statewide affiliates of it. And in Texas, Texas Impact is the Texas Interfaith Power and Light affiliate, and I served 20 years on the board of Texas Impact and was part of it when we affiliated with Interfaith Power and Light. I now am the Interfaith Climate Coordinator for that group. And then we also have the United Methodist Creation Justice Movement. In the United Methodist Church, we have ecological work being done in many different boards and agencies. But up until a couple of years ago, there wasn't any coordination between them. And so the United Methodist Creation Justice Movement came into being. And I'm on the coordinating committee of that, but basically it's an umbrella organization bringing together all the eco-theology work that is being done with United Women in Faith, General Board of Church and Society, General Board of Global Ministries, Board of Higher Education, Board of Discipleship, and on and on and on. We just sent a letter to the Council of Bishops 3 weeks ago, asking for them to renew their commitment to creation care, creation justice. They published a letter in 2009. They reissued a statement in 2016, and I am pleased to say that this week coming, they will be issuing a new statement on creation care, the Council of Bishops, which is very important because as we do this work, we need that support from the top, but this is a bottom-up movement. It takes place in the pews of the local congregations. This is something we cannot do without support from the bottom and from the top. And so how do we go about this? What strategies do we do? We educate faith communities about environmental issues. We promote sustainability. We encourage faith communities to take action on environmental issues. We promote sustainable practices in reducing environmental harm. But there are challenges. Despite the many successes of eco-theology, there are also challenges and opportunities. Some of the key challenges are resistance to change. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, who deny that there is a problem. If you want to communicate with them, get this book. Catherine Hayhoe is the environmental scientist at Texas Tech, and she's a leading communicator on climate issues. She's been part of the climate assessment for the last 4 times that it was issued. And she's an evangelical Christian whose husband, they started a church in Lubbock. He came to Dallas. They now live in Irving, where he started a second campus of that church. And so there, she is absolutely incredible. But understanding that resistance to change and how to communicate with people who are in denial. There's also a challenge with the lack of resources. One of the problems we face right now is that everything in our federal government has been cut. our government is not sending any representatives to the climate talks that begin tomorrow in Brazil. They've withdrawn. They've basically backed out of global commitments that have been made in Paris in 2015 and since. There's also a challenge of diversity and complexity. Because this is such a diverse and complex field, there are many challenges in navigating different theological perspectives, different approaches and understandings, as well as the economics of how to go about it. But there are opportunities for growth, and that is increasing awareness, interfaith collaboration, and new initiatives, new innovations that are taking place. So, having said all that, where do we go from here? It's a growing field that seeks to reconnect spirituality with environment responsibility. It's an interdisciplinary approach that combines theology, ecology, and environmental science. It calls for a holistic approach to address environmental degradation and to link it to social injustice. Future developments will likely focus on addressing climate change, integrating indigenous knowledge, because there's so much knowledge around the world that can be applied to this, and promoting interfaith dialogue and collaboration on environmental issues. That's a lot. I've got a resource table up here which has a number of books if anybody's interested. Does anybody have any questions? Be happy to answer those if I can. Yes?
What do you see as our being a connectional church, okay? And we're connected to a lot of churches that are small.
Yep.
And don't have a lot of resources. What can we do best for them?
Let me just take the issue of solar, okay? There are a number of churches that want to do solar, but they're too small to be able to afford it. They don't have the resources. But what we're doing is we're putting together basically co-ops and groups. We have investors who are willing to purchase and install and then lease those back to the churches so they can take advantage of it. That's one example of that. But the more we can work together and educate, the more we can draw on our collective wisdom and knowledge, and the more we can share the spiritual impact that caring for creation has on our lives, the more we can do. Is that okay? Yes?
It seems that a lot of times the most enthusiasm for environmental issues comes from youth. Is there something in the plan to bring in the
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I am, as Chris was mentioning, as caretaker of God's creation for the Horizon Texas Conference, I'm putting together a team of people from throughout the conference. We've got 10 districts, okay? And unfortunately, 6 of those districts are outside of the Legacy North Texas Conference, so I'm not as familiar with those. I'm relying and working with all of our district superintendents to identify people who can bring that knowledge, and I'm looking especially for youth and people in disadvantaged communities. I will tell you one example of what's going on right now, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with Cultivate. Cultivate is a missional opportunity led by Reverend Rob Spencer, It's in Paris, and what they're doing is they have got a big farm up there, and they are doing camps and training with young people. And they are working across the board with school districts, but also with churches. I know that First Keller is planning this spring, during spring break, to do a Creation Care Bible camp. Okay? I mean, these are the kinds of things that we're doing, and getting the word out, getting the resources out. Part of what I do is I resource churches. I spend a lot of time telling churches, this is, go here, go there, do this, do that. Making sure that people are aware of the different opportunities that are available, and especially as regards to camping youth. Cultivate just sent 10 people to Earthkeeper training. They were commissioned last week. And of those 10, we had representatives from Prothero Center, Bridgeport Camp, and Glen Lakes Camp in Central Texas. And so they are going to be incorporating in the ministry to youth and children going forward. There's a number of other things that we're working on with them, but those are things that are taking place. Yeah. Yes?
You mentioned you were going to have a blog for... We are going to be
blogging from our... There's a real challenge to attending the climate talks online, because not everything is webcast. But what we're doing is Texas Impact does have a team on the ground in Brazil this week and next week, and they will be posting some things. I'm going to be monitoring a lot of the sessions that deal with immigration, climate migration, immigration, and methane. Those are two of the areas that I'm particularly interested in. But the other people on our team, two from the West Coast, one from North Carolina, one from Illinois, are going to be dealing with finance, mitigation, healthcare. And we will be posting those. They should be on a couple of different websites, okay? And which ones are going to be where, I don't know. One is Texas Impact. That's texasimpact.org. The other is United Methodist Creation Justice Movement website, creationjustice.org. And the other one is Insight. Are y'all familiar with Insight? Insight is a weekly newsletter that comes out. It's published by Cynthia Astle, who was the former editor of the United Methodist Reporter. She lives in Dallas, and she publishes a lot of our stuff as part of her weekly newsletter.
Could you repeat the address for that?
uminsight.org. I think that's what it is.
Thank you.
But if you Google Insight, it should take you there. Yeah. But those are going to be the primary, and then I think also that there may be some in one of the Baptist publications as well. Yeah.
You mentioned you've been working with the TCEQ and EPA presenting to them. Are there any specific policies you're trying to push for them to implement?
Methane.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that, well, this is a whole another area, but methane is 80 times more toxic than carbon dioxide. And it's a greenhouse gas. It is more powerful and more destructive to health. And what people don't understand, we think, well, methane, yeah, sure, we see it when we see the fracking going on and the flaring of the fracking. Understand that oil and gas are only about 40% of methane emissions. 20% come from agriculture, whether that's feedlots or, surprisingly enough, in Southeast Asia, rice paddies. It comes out of there. It's coming into the atmosphere through the melting of the permafrost in the Arctic regions. 20% globally comes from landfills, which you get all that cooking in the landfill and it emits methane. So there's a lot going on there. But when you drill an oil well within 500 feet of an elementary school or a daycare center and they're flaring, we got a problem. And understand that the rates of cancer in the Permian Basin are about 3 times higher than in the rest of the country. So again, when I talk about the interconnectedness of the justice issues here, we're looking at healthcare justice, we're looking at economic justice, and so on. So, others? Well, I'll be around for a while, and if you have any additional questions, or if you want to come look at some of the books that I brought along for you to look at, feel free to do so. Thank you so much. Can we have a word of prayer before we close? Creator God, we give you thanks for this time that we've shared together. We thank you for all that you give us in the form of your creation. Empower us to be good stewards, that we might care for it, that we might protect it, that we might pass it on, that we might do as our indigenous neighbors do. They don't look at today, they don't look at tomorrow, they look 7 generations into the future. Bless us as we care for all that you created. And we thank you for your love. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.